Yo, what up? Welcome to my channel, Retro Stash Repairs. My name is Miguel. I got here today a Game Boy Advance game, Nightmare in Dreamland. It's obviously missing the label, but I recently tried to play it and I noticed it wasn't saving. So, I looked it up, and it auto saves, and in order to auto save, you need to like pass a level or two. And I tried that and I passed like 3, 4 levels and it still wasn't saving. So I'm pretty sure this has a battery, a save battery, like a few Game Boy Advance games have. And I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that it doesn't save. And I have an extra battery right here where I've replaced them before on a couple of Pokemon games. And unlike the Pokemon games, they only need the battery for the time clock within the game. But some, like I know there's a Metroid game that has a save battery, and if it's missing, it won't save. And I'm guessing this is one of them as well. So I'll probably just time lapse this so y'all don't have to watch the whole thing. Alright, as y'all can see, I've beaten a couple levels already. So theoretically that should save when I turn it off and turn it back on. And see, 0%, nothing saved. And when you start playing, there's no save option or anything. You can erase the files and make different files, but no save option. It doesn't give you the save option. Watch. Yeah, nothing. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna have a battery. Other than that, if not, then it's gonna be a chip issue, and I'll have to look if there's corrosion or something wrong with it and try to fix it. And yep, for sure there's a battery on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace that and see if we can get it working after we replace it. Take some soldering wick. You'll have to remove the solder from both sides. It's looking pretty good. side's not wanting to cooperate. There we go. Now, take the tweezers and pull it up from one side. That side's off. Kept wanting to go back, but there, it's off now. Do the same thing with the other side. There we go, it's off. I believe there's like several different versions of this. This might end up going the opposite way. And then I know you have to bend the tabs in order to fit on there, because as you can see, one side's always going to be lifted up. And it really doesn't matter. Well, it kind of doesn't matter which way it is, as long as you get the polarity right. You know, positive to positive and negative to negative. So I'm fixing to look at that here and then go from there. And there's actually an indication on the board itself. If we can just focus. See, one side's positive and one side's negative. The battery, this top side is positive, so that would go this way. And the bottom side's negative. So I'll go ahead and get both of these cleaned up. You always want to be careful with tabs, not to push down too hard or be too rough, because you might actually lift the pads off the board. Clean the pads off with IPA. Alright, that's pretty good. So this top side is positive, that side is negative, and so this end I have to bend it down, you know, put a 90 on it, then make it flush to the pad. And this one already has a 90 on it, but it still doesn't quite sit on there, if you can see it. So I'll have to push it farther down. Let's do that real quick. See how that side looks. Just a little farther down. All right, that's pretty good on that side. You can see I made a 90. Let's see how that might be too high. So see how that looks now. It's like a tight fit. But that would work. Just want to make sure it's not touching any of the pins on the chip. I think I'm going to make it slight. Just making sure it's not touching, going to be touching. Alright, that looks pretty good. So now it's just off to solder each pad on each end of the battery. I have to cut a little bit of solder off. Okay, yes, I added flux. Sorry, it's taking a while. Just trying to get it centered on both sides. That looks pretty good. I at least need to tack it on there, so yeah, that looks good. Do the same thing with this underside, other side. More flux to this side. And there you're done replacing the battery. It's just clean it up again with some IPA. And after that, we'll see if it works. Hopefully it does. And like I mentioned before, this applies to any Game Boy Advance game that uses a save battery or an internal time clock battery, like the Pokemon ones do. Let's see. I'll make sure that fits on there. Yes, it does. I'm gonna let it dry out a little bit more. All right, well, I'm gonna put it back in now. Cross my fingers, testing it out, see if it works. All right, well, kind of went an extra level or two than I was supposed to. Got kind of carried away, but I'm gonna turn it off now and see if it autosave this time or not, because you know I've already beat like 2-3 levels. All right, well, I kind of got carried away there. I was having a little too much fun, but I mean, honestly, I could have probably just stopped after 1 or 2 levels, but I beat 3. And so what I'm going to do now is turn it off and see if it autosaves like it's supposed to. And hope for the best. Still not working. Huh. So that means it's not the battery. Unless you're supposed to be like a whole stage or whatever. I'll have to look at it some more off camera and see what the problem is. Alright, so what I went ahead and did is I got both batteries, got my multimeter out and put it on voltage, and I tested the old battery, and it's giving me a super low rating, or it's actually, it kind of jumps from 0 to 0.1314, pretty low. But then I check a new battery. This is another one that I have, the same one I put in the cartridge itself, and I get a 3 point something, so that's way higher than the old battery. So this, I'm pretty sure this battery is not good either, so it must have been the battery. But what I think is happening, you might have to beat like all the doors, and I guess that's level 1 because there's different stages. I guess that's the first stage, maybe you have to beat it that way. But I did remember I had beat all the doors. I went to the next stage and it still didn't save. So I'm going to go ahead and try that off camera and see, like play through that entire first stage and see if that's the case, see if it saves after that. Because I had tried it before, and even after being in the whole stage, all the doors of the first stage, it didn't save, but I'm going to see if it saves now. And that might take a while, but I'll be back. Alright, I'm back, everyone. So, after playing it again and completely beating a whole stage, it still wasn't saving the game, and I decided to call up my cousin because I have another copy of the same game, Nightmare in Dreamland, and I asked him to create another save file real quick and to beat a couple of doors and get out, like turn off the game and turn it back on and see if it saved, and he told me it did. So I confirmed 100% it's not the battery, and it's supposed to be saving, so it's going to be something internally other than the battery. So it might be one of the chips. I also was noticing that there's a couple of spots that looks like, you know, the green film from the PCB is somewhat removed, and I checked continuity. I'll do it right now. Check continuity from this trace to over here, and I get nothing, and it's exposed on the copper itself. I'm not getting anything. So that one, however, I mean, it has a hole right there, so I don't think it's really going anywhere. I mean, if I don't find anything else, that'll be my last resort, but to try to figure out if it does go to the other side, or I'll probably end up needing the other game to compare it. But, and there's a little bit more right here as well, not just over here, and there's what seems like a scratch right here. So what I'm going to end up doing is, again, removing the battery, removing the chips, and see if there's any damage on the part of the PCB you can't see, because since those spots, the copper is a little exposed, the only thing I can think of in suspicion is that at this point this got slightly water damaged inside and just got cleaned very well, and all it takes for there to be a malfunction in the game is just one broken trace, and it might have been, you know, part of the RAM trace that's making it not function correctly, but it still plays the game fine. It just is not saving even with the new battery. And if I can't find anything, well, then it's going to either be the RAM chip, because, and you know, it doesn't save solely on the battery. The battery is what powers the RAM chip, and you know, most GBA games, they're wired where the RAM chips, you know, powers from the Game Boy, and it always saves on there. But this requires the battery in order to power up the RAM chip and save properly. So if the battery dies, it won't save anymore, but you replace the battery, it starts saving again. In this case, it is not, so I'm going to start with that, remove the battery, remove the chips, and see what I can find. Alright, here is the removed chip, and as soon as I removed it, I noticed on the PCB itself, I noticed a piece of metal, and it's a pin, one of the pins from the SRAM. So if that wasn't getting contact to the actual chip itself, there's my problem. And I never pull forcefully, I just let it drop on its own, or if I was using a holder, it would just, you know, easily lift on its own. And that's basically what happened. I mean, I just let it drop, and I'm using a hot air station, so I'm pretty sure what was going on. There was no, contact anymore. So it's not the end of the world. What I'm gonna try to do, and another thing I noticed, there's no damage at all, apparent damage on any traces underneath. I don't know yet about this side, but I'm gonna go ahead and put this chip back on there and see if I can solder a wire, because fortunately there's still a tiny bit of copper exposed right there, and hopefully that gets it working. Because I never know either. It can also be a faulty chip at this point, an SRAM chip. But that's what I plan to do. Put it back on and solder a wire to that tiny bit of copper exposed. Hopefully it's enough to get it tacked on there. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and check, the traces, double check the ones that look a little suspicious and see if there's continuity there. I had to take a closer look off camera, but yeah, they check out. There's continuity there, continuity there. Continuity there. And then the one that looks broken, it's really hard to tell on camera, but there's like a slight scratch there. Right there. So yeah, all that checks out, the traces. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that first, try that out, and see if that's my main issue, which I'm hoping it is, because so far that's what it looks like. Because there has been a couple of instances before. Let me get a motherboard that I have for parts. What part was it? I believe it was one of these components or one of these. That was causing the motherboard not to charge, and on the SP PCB. And I couldn't figure it out until I started removing components, and when I removed it, just with the hot air station, the exact same thing happened. One of the pins on the component itself stayed on the board, and it was removed really easily. So I ended up replacing the component, tested the PCB again, and voila, it worked. So I'm hoping that's the case for this. If I can get, tacked onto that tiny bit of copper exposed right there. And once I do, it will start working again, saving like it's supposed to. I wish I would have started with that instead of removing the battery, but we'll put it back on either way. Oh, another thing to note is each time you remove chips on a PCB, you always want to remember which way, it was facing before removing it. And in most cases, if it's that important, you have to put it exactly the way it was when you remove it. Um, there's usually on chips a little dot, and it tells you, the orientation it's supposed to go. In this case, both of these are in the upper left-hand corner, and that's the way it's supposed to go. So just another little note to keep in mind. Just making sure it's fully soldered on there. Pretty happy with that. I'll go ahead and see if I can tack some solder to that bit of copper on the end. Yeah, there's solder definitely on there. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm just going to add a wire to it. Alright, well, I had to go grab some bare copper wire. So I'm going to be using this one, which is 28 gauge. And, enameled or insulated braided wire is useless here. Best things to do, like for short distance right away things like this, bare copper wire is the way to go. So what I like to do is cut off a piece and then pre-tin the wire itself. It'll just make it a lot easier, especially to solder onto that tiny point on the chip itself. And I've attempted this before, but it did not work because the chip that I was trying to fix, it was way too small, and I could not get solder to tack onto it. And it was like microscopic. There you go, I pre-tinned it. So now, add some solder to the pad. Just trying to get a proper length here. Definitely want it long enough to touch that point on the chip. Dang, kind of went sideways. It's a little lifted, the wire itself, but let's see if I can get it slightly lower. hold it with the tweezers. There. The wire dropped down from that point, but I have to make sure it's touching. Maybe slightly below it. I'm gonna have to look at this closer. I think I'm at a good spot right there. It's touching against the chip, just slightly below that point. Hopefully it's close enough to where I can bridge it. So I'm gonna take a small piece of solder so I can lay it on there. Another trick I like to do is actually turn down the temperature on my soldering iron, because I don't want it too hot, because it just sucks onto the tip itself. It sticks onto it rather than the surface, what I'm trying to solder onto. Add more flux, that helps as well. There, I think that did it. I'll have to take a closer look at it again. There, I'm actually pretty happy with that. I don't know if you can tell on camera. It's definitely tacked on there. So just cut off the excess wire, clean it up, and test it out again. Hopefully it works this time. Just before I put it back together, I'm going to check the continuity. I doubt there won't be any, but yep. So I'm just hoping there's good enough contact to that small little copper exposed on the chip. So here comes the moment of truth, and to see if that was a problem, because I'm hoping it's not where, it just broke it by me removing it. But I'm usually very careful removing them. I just let it drop on its own. So it was very weird to see that pins stay on the PCB. Here goes moment of truth. Okay, it's not even playing. Alright, so now it's not even wanting to play, but it may just need, I didn't clean it well enough, so I'll take a look at it off camera real quick and then get back to it. Okay, well that's weird. So I went ahead and cleaned it, and it's reading the game now. But when I turn it on, look what happens. What the heck? So maybe I'm gonna go ahead and reflow those points from the chip and then retry, I guess. I don't know what can be going wrong. All right, I'm back again. So I tried everything, cleaning it really well, and it's still doing the same thing. And what I did go ahead and do is dig out through a bunch of games. And what I think I'm going to have to do is just switch out an FRAM for the SRAM, and that's going to completely eliminate the need for a battery. But I'll see if the game works that way, because now it's not even working. Just out of curiosity, though, what I want to go ahead and do is remove that pin, like cut it, and see if it still does the same problem, and like if it's still not playing, and then remove the whole chip and see what happens after that as well. Just a little bit of experimentation, because I've never really had this problem before, run into this problem, because I've fixed several GBA cards and removed the chips off of them and everything. Fixed like corrosion and stuff, like broken traces. I've fixed a few GBA cards, a couple of them being Pokemon games as well. And I've never run across this problem. I'm not sure what happened, but if this whole chip is just faulty, then that might be a problem, why it's not even playing. But we're fixing to find out if it's still salvageable or not, because it was playing. Y'all saw me play it in the beginning and stuff. It just wasn't saving, and it ended up not being the battery the main issue. So, well, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it and see what happens after that. There, it's cut right there. Now, see what happens when I put it in. Still doing the same thing. Well, that's very weird. Not sure if there would be kind of some sort of short somewhere. Because I wonder if it'd play even without this, before it had this issue. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove the whole thing. Alright, now I'm going to put it back into the game, to the Game Boy, and see what it does now. Still doing the same thing. Man, what's going on? Unless it does that when it doesn't have a RAM chip on it. That means it's not detecting this one, even though I'm pretty sure I soldered it pretty well. And I've cleaned it pretty well as well, but I'm not sure what's going on. So I think what my next move is going to be is just take this FRAM chip off this other game and then put it on here. And if it works, well, it works. I know it works, but maybe later on I'll try to put this one back, solder it really well, and see if it plays again. But for now, I'm just trying to get my game back to working. But either way, I mean, I have nothing to lose, because if it doesn't save at all, then the game is useless. Alright, I'm just now thinking about, so before I take this FRAM off, I want to see if the game actually works. It's not working. That way, if once I take it off and put it back in the SP, and if it has that same clicking issue, then I know it's not even reading that RAM chip anymore, the original one that came off the Kirby game. So yeah, this works. So now I just need to remove this FRAM chip. Alright, now I'm going to put it in the case and into the SP and see what it does without the chip. What? It's still playing. Of course, it's not going to save anything. That's not good. So something else must be going on with the game itself, other than the SRAM. I'm at a total loss now. I might just give it a better clean and see what happens. Man, I'm hoping I didn't mess something up. I don't see how. I mean, the only thing I ever messed with was SRAM chip. Not sure if there could be excess solder. There's maybe a short somewhere. But I mean, this game is playing fine without the FRAM chip. Huh. Well, that's weird. You know, I'm just gonna drench this in IPA, clean it very, very good, and see if I can get it working. Dang it. I accidentally removed a pad, that third pad. So now I'm going to have to run a wire to where it's supposed to go. I'm not sure how that happened. Well, that's pretty disappointing. So it runs right here. I'll have to run a wire through if I can get it working. And go ahead and let it dry, air dry for a bit, and then retest it out again. Alright, so I let it dry for a bit, and then I went ahead and figured where this went to. So maybe I can just run a wire for now, and maybe later on give it a more permanent fix. And that pad I accidentally lifted up, it goes to this one right here. So I can just run a wire from here, from this point to this pin on the chip. But for now, connect it to the Game Boy, see if it plays. And I'm not sure, I mean, maybe the SRAM works differently. Maybe it needs to be on in order to play the game. I wouldn't know, but this is giving me a pretty hard time. Huh, no, it's just not doing anything. It's not clicking anymore, so. Yep, still not wanting to do anything. Just turns white, and that's pretty much it. So, man, now I don't know whether to try it on. I'm gonna go ahead and look for any shorts somewhere. I'm not sure. For all I know, I mean, this chip could have messed up somehow. I wouldn't see how. I mean, I only cleaned it unless, you know, I accidentally broke a tray somewhere by cleaning it. But that would mean I would have to remove this chip and look at every single trace, make sure there's continuity throughout. But at this point, I'm not sure if it'd be worth it. But I mean, good, because it is a pretty good game, and I hate to it for being able to work and it just, instead of not working, it's just being, you know, thrown away or something. But I think I'm just gonna go ahead and put the FRAM on there and see what happens. And make sure I remember where that lead goes to. Okay, it's between the O and the A. Alright, well, moment of truth. See what happens after all that. Hopefully I can get it working. Yep, still not working. So I guess I'm just gonna have to continue looking at off camera, see if I can get it working, because I'm not sure what could have been wrong with it. I'm gonna have to start looking at traces, looking at different components. That's so frustrating though, because it was working, it just wasn't saving, and now it's not working at all. I'm not sure how that could have happened when I only removed the SRAM chip. Didn't really do anything else, just replaced the battery a couple times. But alrighty then. Alright, I'm back again after like the 20th time now. But I think I know what I have to do now. I'm going to go ahead and remove the ROM chip and see if I can find, any cut traces or anything. Just a quick look. If not, what I think I'm going to end up doing is just completely swap the PCBs. Maybe I messed up something while cleaning it. I'm not sure, but I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And if I don't see anything wrong with it, then I'm going to go ahead and put the FRAM chip back onto this board and swap these two chips. See if that gets it working. I'm not giving up just yet. Right away I can tell, yeah, that there's nothing going to be wrong with that. I'm afraid somehow the ROM got messed up, but I can only hope it's just one of these components that malfunction. And if not, what I could also do, but I would have to wait, is buy another cheap game out there that has the same specs as this, an SRAM, battery save, everything, the PCB the same, and then just swap everything out except for all these components. But now to remove this one. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother anymore checking it, because it looks very clean. I'm not sure what happened to this. Now I'm going to clean up all the solder pads, this time carefully, not to lift any. Go ahead and switch out the tip. Now I'll go ahead and remove this one again. Alright, now that's done. Now I can start putting everything on this board, both of those chips. You know what? I'm probably going to start off with this one first, just because this is a harder one to put on. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. I'll take a closer look at it in a bit, but I'll go ahead and put the FRAM as well. I mean, that's not perfect, but it should work. I am going to have to add more solder on this one. Alright, so I'm going to let air dry for a little bit and then come back and finally test it out again. Alright, well, now that I've let it dry a little bit, now I'm going to test it out and hope for the best. Hopefully the game works, first of all. Nope. What the? It just needs a little cleaning. Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh, dang. Finally, I got it working again. Wow. After like 2-3 hours, what was only supposed to take like 5 to 10 minutes, and really like less than 5 or at least 5 to get the battery placed without filming, but with filming maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And wow. So here's the original board, which I should have just swapped those two from the very beginning, but I didn't know I was going to run into that many problems. And really, because I mean, I wasted another game, even though I don't really care about it too much at all. Actually, if even I cared about it a little bit, I would have kept it. It was some Nickelodeon game, but Yeah, I'd rather much have this. So what I'm going to do now is just play through it really quick and see if it saves. First though, I'm going to put it back together completely how it was. Just drop something. Maybe get a print out a label for it, which I had one, but it peeled off. So originally it was missing, and then I made myself one that was pretty neat and glossy and everything, and it just came off. I needed a better glue. Alright, so I'll definitely be time-lapsing this part. Now it's going to be the big moment of truth. See if it saves after this. If not, then I don't know what else I could do after that. Because it's also a pointless game if it doesn't save. Alright, now is the moment of truth. The purpose of this entire video. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off and see if it saved. Because remember, it's supposed to autosave. And now I see if it's going to work. I'm sorry about my gameplay, but it's not that great. But that's not the main purpose of this video. Cross my fingers. Oh, yes. It's saved now. Oh, that's a big relief. Okay, that's... Wow. That makes me even happier than seeing it play again. So now it's completely fixed. It's saving now. Yep, back where I left off. Oh my gosh. Alright. So that does it for this video, guys. And wow, I don't even know what to say anymore at this point. It's been quite a bit of time since I started. But, I mean, it's all fixed now. For me, it's worth it because, you know, for free, I have it completely fixed now. Somewhat, because I used another PCB, but I already had it and I didn't really care about the game. But so that does it for this video. If y'all like this kind of content and want to continue watching more, make sure to like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell button so you won't miss out on any of my future content. Well, thank you guys again for watching. See you next time.